Okay, let's talk retirement. It's this huge, kind of overwhelming topic, right? But what if we could boil it all down to a super concrete checklist? All today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving into 7 major financial decisions you can make in those last few years before you stop working that'll set you up for a way smoother, way less stressful retirement.
I want you to just picture this for a second. You're 5 years in, you're living comfortably on your fixed income, everything's going great, and then, bam, the HVAC system just dies. That's a 5-figure emergency expense that just hits you out of nowhere. Seriously, what's the plan? Where does that money come from? Which account do you have to pull it from, and what kind of tax hit are you going to take? It's the kind of thing that can really cause a lot of anxiety.
And that right there is the core idea of this whole explainer. It is so much easier to handle these big ticket items when you've still got a steady paycheck coming in, instead of having to drain your carefully planned retirement savings later on. So here's our playbook for today. We've broken down these 7 key moves into 4 strategic areas. And we're going to start with what is, for a lot of people, the biggest financial surprise in retirement. First up, healthcare. This is one of those areas where out-of-pocket costs can be a major shock to new retirees. A lot of folks assume that once they hit 65 and get on Medicare, all their worries are just over. But that's not quite how it works. Yeah, this quote really hits on a huge misconception. I mean, don't get me wrong, Medicare is a fantastic safety net, but it is not a blank check. You really need a proactive plan, not just for the big medical procedures, but for things like dental, vision, and hearing too. All of that stuff can add up fast. So this shows you 4 really concrete actions you can take. You can, for instance, schedule major procedures while you're still on your better employer plan. You can itemize those big costs for a nice tax deduction while your income is still high. And if you're retiring before 65, you've got to map out your coverage. But really, the last one is a big one. If you have a health savings account, an HSA, you should absolutely be maxing it out. That triple tax benefit is a true financial powerhouse for healthcare. Okay, next up, let's talk about what is probably your single largest asset, your home. Those huge decisions about where you're going to live in retirement, yeah, you want to make those before you stop working. You're basically at a fork in the road here, right? Do you move? Maybe you downsize, or you buy that vacation home you've always dreamed of. Or do you stay and improve your current home, get it all ready for the next chapter? Both paths have major financial implications. And here's the crucial point. This is so important. If either of those paths, moving or improving, requires a loan or a new mortgage, it is infinitely easier to qualify while you're still working. Lenders want to see that income stream. They care a lot less about how big your retirement account is. And hey, if you decide to stay put, think about it. Tackling that $20,000 roof replacement or that $40,000 kitchen remodel is just so much more manageable with a paycheck than it is by taking a big taxable withdrawal from your 401k a few years down the line. All right, so beyond the house, let's talk about the things that are going to shape your day-to-day life in retirement. How you get around and having all those adventures you've been dreaming about. Let's think about your car for a minute. If it's starting to get a little older, maybe buying or leasing a new reliable vehicle before you retire can set you up for the first 5, maybe even 10 years without a car payment. And it totally avoids the hassle of trying to get an auto loan when you're on a fixed income. And now for the fun stuff. For so many people, those first few years of retirement are the most active go-go years for travel. So why not pre-fund those dream trips? You can book them now, or you can just set aside a dedicated travel fund while your cash flow is at its absolute peak. Okay, let's bring it all home with our final 2 powerful strategies. These really leverage the unique financial spot you're in during your last few years of work. So in those years right before you retire, you are likely at your peak earning potential. What this means is you have more discretionary income, basically more financial firepower than you've probably ever had before. The big question is, how do you use it most effectively? This is your golden opportunity. It's your chance to supercharge everything. You can max out your 401k contributions. You can fully fund that HSA we talked about, pay cash for those big ticket items. You can even pre-fund your future charitable giving. You're essentially front-loading all your financial goals. It's a really powerful move. And finally, the 7th key move is to get all your estate documents in order. Seriously, do not wait until after you've retired. Refreshing your will, updating your beneficiaries, and just making sure everything is legally sound before you retire, well, that's a critical step that provides so much clarity for you and your loved ones. So there you have it,
7 major financial items to be squared away before you punch that clock for the very last time. We're talking healthcare, your home, your car, travel, savings, charity, and your estate plan.
By tackling these big ticket items proactively, you're doing so much more than just buying stuff or paying for services. What you're really, truly buying is future certainty. You're building a rock-solid foundation for a retirement with fewer financial surprises and a whole lot more peace of mind.
So the key takeaway here is to turn all this knowledge into an actual plan. Looking at these 7 areas, which one are you going to tackle first? Thanks for joining this explainer.